So the first artist we're going to be speaking about is Salvador Dali, and I think he's the best really to embody the movement because many people associate him with surrealism. And as I mentioned before with the quote about Dali, he says that the only difference between myself and a madman is I'm not mad. He has this very over the top, larger than life persona, but it was very cultivated. He actually never drank, never took drugs, under the sort of auspices or the idea that he wanted to be able to create a sense of madness. He did not want it created on him or, chemically induced on him. He wanted to actually try to create within himself the idea of what it is to be a mad person. How is it to be abnormal, right? Outside the boundaries of normalcy. Which leads to the term you see on the screen called the paranoiac critical method. So this is a method that he used to basically try to create the sense of craziness, right, or insanity. But again, he himself actually was kind of a buttoned up kind of guy. He just tried to inhabit, right, the landscape of a madman, let's say. Looking at his works, to me he uses the ideas of the unconscious mind or the things that we can't quite access. He uses the dreamscape, he uses dream theory. This piece to me actually combines the unconscious and the dream theory very well together. It's called the sommelier or the sleep. And you have this sort of melting face in this odd landscape, kind of a weird city off in the background, a man with a crutch kind of off to the side, and you're just sort of left, sort of with question marks. You're in this bizarre sort of situation. Why do I think it combines dream theory and in a sense the psyche? Is because you're in this strange place, which is like a dream, and this form, this face is being held up with all these crutches. Now, if you look at psychoanalysis, a lot of times your shrink will tell you, you're using something as a crutch, something as a crutch for you. Like people with alcoholism, they'd say alcohol is a crutch. It's something we lean on to try to get ourselves through things. And so I see this as a piece that kind of thinks about what are the things we use to prop ourselves up, and does it come from nature or nurture? Does it come from some sort of Freudian place of how we've been damaged in our childhood? What leads us to become the people we are, and to have the psychoses and the neuroses and the bizarreness that we have? Dali to me seems to be plumbing those ideas. Of course, there's this famous persistence of memory, which has one of the most fabulous titles ever because memory is anything but persistent. We always remember things differently than other people. We remember things where others don't. Something might hold a lot of importance for me as a memory, and I talk to my husband, and he's like, I don't even remember that. And so memory is not a persistent thing. They have actually done these psychological studies where they've looked at someone looking at an event, like 10 different people looking at an event, and then doing like a survey with them, like what color was the car? What color was that person's hair? And they found that most people cannot get these details right, even though they'll swear to you that they remember them. So memory is not persistent. Memory is something that is very individual, very malleable, flexible, and so the title kind of speaks to that we don't remember things really in the right way. We remember things based on how we judge them, how we quantify them. In the piece, you're again in this kind of dreamscape with this kind of weird cliffs in the background. And actually, a fun Dali story is that he said that he was at a picnic and there was this block of camembert cheese out on a table, and was starting to get kind of soft and runny. Camembert is kind of like in the brie family of cheeses, soft cheeses. And then he said the mountain was sort of inspired by the cheese. So that's sort of a funny, sort of weird detail about the sort of sense of this isn't a place built on reality. You have, of course, the melting clocks. And to me, that speaks to dreams in general because, I'm a lucid dreamer. I have lots of dreams and I remember a lot of things from my dreams. And it's striking to me how time does not function in dreams, the way that it does in your real life. You might fall asleep and think you were asleep for a very long time and you wake up and it's been like 10 minutes or vice versa. So this idea of like, what is time anyway? Is it melts with these clocks? You have this form on the ground that, is it a walrus? Is it a face? It's very bizarre. And then of course the ants kind of on the timepiece. Um, and Dali was well known for having a phobia of bugs. And so what I think he was doing here is also putting out there something Freudian. the fact that we're often afraid of things and we don't really know why, or we're afraid of things where, how why it can't harm you. If you think about bugs, for instance, you know, um, a bug can't harm you, a bug can't hurt you, but like for me, definitely afraid of spiders. It's an illogical fear, but it's very psychically deep within me where if I see a spider, I'm like, nope, no, thank you, no, ma'am. He's sort of playing with this idea of the things in us that maybe don't make any sense. Um, and finally, this idea of like sublimation, free association from Freudian ideals. Sublimation we talked about, is that pushing down of urges, pushing down of desires, hiding things that you might not think people think are natural, or again approved by the superego, might we say. And we didn't talk about free association, but free association was a Freudian method where if you had like some issue, Freud would say, okay, well, just start free associating. Like he'd say a word to you like mother, and then you were supposed to say a word really fast. And he thought he could kind of get to the psychic core with you of certain issues that by the sort of method of free association. So the lobster telephone to me, it sort of speaks to free association. Like it's two things that don't seem to make sense kind of placed together in this odd kind of way. And then the Venus of Drawers, it takes a very famous sculpture. If you've taken art history one or just love Greek art, you know this is the Venus de Milo, very very famous piece, and so Hellenistic piece. So what I love about it though is he made it into a chest of drawers, and if you think about sublimation, it's all about hiding things, the things that you put away, right? So it kind of plays with this sort of idea. And then I always show you this Simpsons cartoon, a play on the Simpsons, where it's sort of playing with the persistence of the persistence of memory. And if you've never watched The Simpsons, maybe it's not funny, but if you have, you'll notice that Lisa's the only one who's not been altered, because Matt Groening often speaks about how Lisa is the only one without a lot of problems. She's the only normal one, right, in the show. So she sort of sits there as the denizen, in a sense, the judger. She reminds me actually of the barkeep in Van Gogh's Night Cafe, personally.